오케이.
이번 세션은 미래교육과 에듀테크를 주제로 발표와 토론이 진행되겠습니다. 좌장에는 이현청 한양대 석좌 교수님께서 수고해 주시겠습니다. 교수님 진행 부탁드립니다.
자, 인사는 해야 되겠죠, first. Okay. I would like to use bilingual, some part in Korean and some part in English. So this is today's last session. So maybe you are almost exhausted. Hope not. You are tired. So, but even though you wait long, so you can earn much more information. I'm pretty much sure. We have a predominant speakers from United States, China, and he's originally from Finland, but he's working at Australia right now. So let me introduce 3 speakers first, and then briefly I sketch this theme today, and then let's start the speakers speak. First speaker is Frank Schulenburg. He's the executive director of Wiki Foundation Education, the nonprofit that serves as the bridge between academia and Wikipedia. The world's largest and the most popular encyclopedia. Very unique, right? And Frank work is motivated by the desire to ensure that everybody's the world has free access to accurate and trustworthy information. So during this time, Schulenburg is a number of global initiatives that he practiced to improve the encyclopedia quality and to give people access to the information they want and need. It's a brief introduction. You wanted to add some more about you?
I'm going to say a little bit more during my presentation.
Okay. Second speaker is from China, Jasen Wang. He's pretty young. He was born in 1985. Very young, excuse me, but a good age. But he's the founder and the CEO of MakeBlock. Wang is a robotic. He's really love robotics. It's a technology. So he hardcore maker and was once ranked as one of the 30 top entrepreneur under the age of 35 Forbes China. After earning his master's degree at Northwestern Polytechnic University in 2010 and spending a year in the workforce, Wang started MakeBlock with the aim to help people turn their idea into real physical object. In my personal opinion, post-industrial revolution has a formula. One is augmented reality, AR, plus virtual reality, make physical reality. That's one formula. So these 3 predominant speakers, they are really the starter, innovator, everything here in Edutech area. So we're expecting this speak. Last speaker is Pasi Sahlberg. He's a professor of education policy and Gonski Institute for Education, University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. But he's a Finnish educator and although who has worked school teacher educator, research and policy advisor in Finland as well as worldwide. He incentively published lots of books. Recent book he introduced here is the Finnish lessons. What can we learn from educational change in Finland 2015, and Finnish educational leadership for big, expensive ideas to transform education 2018, and let the children play. Why more play help schools and the children thrive? 2019 will be published next year, right? So this age we call child without childhood age. So he mentioned that critical issues, hopefully. Let me introduce Frank 슐런버g, first speaker. I will give you 20 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes. So, we're gonna, there we go. Gonna get the slides. The slides gonna. Well, we can maybe do some activity while while the slides are loading. So, how many of you have used or using Wikipedia at least once a month? Show of hands. Okay, good. And how many of you use Wikipedia more than twice a week? Huh? Okay, good. And how many of you have ever changed something on Wikipedia? How many of you have edited Wikipedia? No one?
No one.
No one? You did? Okay, no one else? Okay. Okay, good. Well, not so good from Wikipedia's perspective. My name is Frank Schulenburg. I'm from Germany originally. I moved to the United States in 2008 when the Wikimedia Foundation that operates Wikipedia hired me. And to be honest, that was like a time where the paid staff for Wikipedia was still very, very small. So it was a small organization, small nonprofit. I think I was employee number 8, and now it's much, much bigger. And Wikipedia has evolved over time. And if you think back, some of you might remember what Wikipedia looked like in 2005 when I started editing the German Wikipedia. Actually, it was much smaller. There was so much missing, and it improved over time. Now, I want to start before we dive into the slides. I want to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm so enthusiastic about Wikipedia and free knowledge. Because I grew up in a rural area of northern Germany, and my parents didn't have the money to buy a printed encyclopedia. So in Germany, having a printed encyclopedia at home at that time, when I grew up, was kind of a sign of wealth, of well-educated people. My parents didn't go to high school, actually. After World War II, the economic situation didn't allow them to go to school, and they had to work. And my mom, actually, until her last days, she was very embarrassed that she had trouble with spelling words in German correctly, and she was ashamed of that. When she wrote her grocery list, there were always spelling mistakes on that list. And so I grew up in a situation where, like, my parents knew that access to education and access to knowledge was something that can make your life better. You would be in a better place. And when I discovered Wikipedia in 2005, it hit me like a lightning, and I thought, okay, this is something that I want to spend some time on. I had the huge opportunity to go to university, and I want to give something back to society. And as you know, everybody who edits Wikipedia, these are all volunteers. No one gets paid for that, right? Like, this is like, no one makes money by writing Wikipedia articles and also taking pictures. And like, I'm very honored to be here today. I used some time on Monday to explore some of Seoul, and you will find some of my photos that I took on Monday on Wikipedia already. So with that having said, I'm going to start with what is Wiki Education, what is the Wiki Education Foundation. I'm going to tell you the story of someone, one of the students in our program. And then I'm going to talk about, like, what is it that students can learn when they edit Wikipedia as part of an assignment. So what is Wiki Education? Wiki Education is a small nonprofit based in San Francisco, started in 2014. We try to connect higher education and Wikipedia. I always believed that higher education and Wikipedia belong together. Like, there's a natural connection between the two. And we're trying to, on the one hand, we're trying to make Wikipedia more accurate, more representative, and more complete. You know, there's still, I mean, over time, there's still many mistakes still on Wikipedia, and it's like, it's a good starting point. It's never an end point of your research, right? But there are still many gaps, and that has to do with the interest of the volunteers. If you edit Wikipedia in your free time, you want to edit the articles that interest you, about topics that you're enthusiastic about. And so because the specific demographics on Wikipedia is mostly male, white, well-educated, and relatively young, that's why Wikipedia has certain gaps in certain areas, because those people that fall into that demographics, they write articles about video games, about pop music, and that's the area where Wikipedia is really strong. Right? In some other areas, Wikipedia is not so strong. And we're trying with engaging people in higher education, we're trying to change that. But at the same time, you can learn a lot when you're participating as a student in a Wikipedia assignment. And so that is the one thing we do. We have two program lines. One is for students. Students write Wikipedia articles instead of a term paper. And that's a big thing for them. Many of them are scared, right? Like, everybody who's at that age knows Wikipedia, and they feel like, ooh, I'm going to edit Wikipedia now. I'm going to change something on Wikipedia. That's super scary, right? And so students write Wikipedia articles. That's our students program. And then something that we just started is the Scholars and Scientists program. And the Scholars and Scientists program targets high-profile Wikipedia articles, and scholars and scientists write those. So people who are farther in their career, who are maybe assistant professors or professors. And why would those people want to edit Wikipedia in their free time? Because, like, Wikipedia is the place where everybody goes for information, right? And you want information about your topic area. You want that to be accurate. You want your topic to be well represented on Wikipedia. And so those are the two things that we're doing. And one result, some of you might still, well, most of you might still remember this. This is Encyclopedia Britannica. And in April, our organization reached a huge milestone. We're working with more than 500 universities in the United States. And most people get to know us through academic associations that we're partnering with. And the milestone that we reached in April was that students in our program added the equivalent of all these volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica to Wikipedia, on the English Wikipedia, and that was a huge moment for us. Now, let me tell you the story of Elisha Webb. This is Elisha. And Elisha Webb is a, well, at the point when I prepared the slides, she was still a student. She now graduated. So the slide, I sent that slide, I think, to Korea in August. So this is a little bit outdated already. And Elisha, she studied at the University of Florida. And she improved, as part of her assignment, she improved the Wikipedia article about the Florida bonneted bat. And there was a course on principles of systematic biology. And here's like an example of what Elisha did to that article. So what you see here in purple is what Elisha added to that article. And what you see, what is not highlighted is what was in the article before. And this is a screenshot of a tool that our organization provides. It's called the Wiki Education Dashboard, and it helps instructors to do the grading. So figuring out who wrote what on Wikipedia, I'm not going to go into the details, is quite complicated for a number of different reasons. And so our tool that we provide, by the way, we provide all those services for free, right? We're not making money off of the students or something. We're like a nonprofit, and large organizations, large grant makers in the United States, for example, the Hewlett Foundation or the Moore Foundation, they believe that it's really important that people have access to good information. And so they fund our work, and that funding went into this tool here. And so you can see that, like, some of the things that Elisha added is like about that bat species, is information about reproduction, social structure, and so on. And she actually did more, but what I'm showing you here is a small part. And this is one of those bats, actually, and that is a picture that Elisha took and that she added to Wikipedia. And it motivated her so much. She liked the assignment, so she continued editing after the class. And she wrote the article, or she improved the article about the Indian flying fox. And so what you see here on those pictures, that's the Indian flying fox. And why am I telling you that story? Because, like, one thing happened that was quite amazing. You can see here, what you see on this slide now is page view statistics of that Indian flying fox article that Elisha improved. And now, I hope you can see that you can see that on the slide. And it's like in May 2018, something happened, and more people looked at that article. It's actually quite dramatic change. From somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 people read that article each month, to more than, I think it's more than 11,000 people looked at that article in May, and then still more than 10,000 in June. And that was the Nipah virus outbreak in India. And no one expected that. But like Elisha was fortunate enough to have improved the article about the Indian flying fox and added information that this specific species could transmit that Nipah virus. And when this event happened in May this year, many people looked at that article. And now think about that, that change, right? Like you, in the United States, students write a term paper almost every term, right? And like how many people read that term paper? One, maybe two, right? And so this was a real world assignment, right? Like Alicia did something that helped other people. It's like in the United States, some people call that it's like service learning. It's like a real world assignment. It's, what she wrote later, she said the page views jumped dramatically from around 100 per day to 1,700 a day during that outbreak. And what she says is, it made me thankful that I had included information on diseases in that article so that people could quickly get access to the facts instead of having to sift through the dozens of research publications that I used to write the article, right? And so you know that sometimes when you try to access like a scientific paper, it's behind a paywall. I guess there are many educators in the room, so for you it's not behind a paywall, but for normal people like me, it's behind a paywall. And so having someone take all that information and put it in a Wikipedia article so I can understand it, and also writing it in a way that is easier for me to understand. I'm not a biologist. I don't know anything about bats, to be honest, right? And having that information at hand through Alicia's work, it's actually quite amazing. Now, learning outcomes for students. We asked someone, we always knew, we heard so many stories about, like, we got feedback from educators who said, well, my students learned so much, but we were not able to really quantify that. And so, as you can imagine, if you apply for grant money, people want to see numbers, right? And we were actually also, we wanted to know, like, what is it actually that students get out of this? And like, how does that compare to what we've heard before? And so this is a study. You can download it. If you student learning outcomes using Wikipedia-based assignments, when you Google that, you will find that. Like everything else that we do, this has been released under free license. So you can download it for free. You don't have to pay for it. Just Google it, and you can get more information. And the people who did this, and I only brought like a couple of examples here of, like, there's more in that study, you can imagine. But I brought some example of what instructors said. So we asked instructors, how does this teaching with Wikipedia, how does that compare when you compare it to like a traditional assignment where students write a term paper, or when people write a Wikipedia article? And here's some of the results. So this is the percentage. What you see here, the bar, is the percentage of instructors who found Wikipedia assignments more or much more valuable than a traditional assignment. And so you have to take into account that these are all people who have taught with Wikipedia before, so there's a slight bias, right? That they like it. Of course they like it. But like the results, I found those results quite amazing. Online source reliability. Why is that important? Because students look for information online all the time. There is like a Stanford University Graduate School of Education study in 2016, where the people at Stanford University looked into how much do students know about like the reliability of information that they find on the web. And it was quite dramatic. It was very, very bad, right? Like people know how to use their phone, but like when it comes to online source reliability, it gets a little bit dicey. So next one, digital literacy, right? Digital literacy is important. there's going to be, like, in a couple of hours, I think my wife just went to bed in California, so in a couple of hours there are the midterm elections, and people find information about, like, candidates and about all kinds of topics online. And, like, I think we all want the next generation of people, no matter in which country we live, we want them to have enough digital literacy so they know which information to trust on the internet and which not to trust, right? And instructors in this survey said 96% of them said a Wikipedia assignment is better at teaching students digital literacy than a traditional assignment. And then, of course, writing. And this is the Global HR Forum, right? Like, some of you might come from a corporate background, and you want like what people in the United States call employability skills. And whether you're a researcher or you work in the corporate world, you want employees, you want people to work for you who can translate something, a very complex topic, into something that everybody else can potentially understand. And so writing for a large audience is really important, and translating it for people. And so this is my last slide. This is a quote from one of our students. And she said, "I was encouraged by more than the grade. I wanted to contribute to something long-lasting and something bigger than myself." And this is a thing that I see every time when we talk to participants in our program, that they're more motivated. They're more motivated during that class because they feel like what they are doing during the class has value for someone else. And that's what Wikipedia stands for. That's why I personally spend so much time on my weekends or after work on improving little things on Wikipedia, because I really believe that people should have free access to general information, and that's what Wikipedia stands for. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Frank, for your insightful, good presentation. So it's very practical. Thank you. The next speaker will be Jasen Wang from China. Okay, I'll give it 20 minutes for you.
Okay. Actually, this is my second time to give English presentation, so I need some additional help. Okay. Screen not work. Okay. So I give a very brief introduction about MakeBlock. So we develop hardware, software for STEM education, and at the same time we hold a robotics competition called MakeX. So today's topic is about education. I will start from a topic about change. Let's look at the chart. This is the trend of the global GDP in the past 2,000 years. It can be seen that this change has been very slow for a long time in the past. This line is almost flat. The change began to accelerate in the middle 19th century, when the first industry revolution began, and the rapid start of change began in the middle 20th century, when computers were invented, and humans began to enter the information technology. The change we have made in the society over the past few decades have outweighed the past few thousand years, and everything is changing very rapid. So this is the change about the society. Let's think about the change on education. What kind of change we have on education? We do have some change. A lot of schools are using iPad to replace books. Many schools replace the traditional blackboard with a smart whiteboard. And many companies are using AI technology to improve the education efficiency. But I think this kind of change is only the superficial change. Today's students are studying almost the same courses as their fathers did 30 years ago. The main purpose of education today is still to get high scores in the exams. So from this perspective, I think the change in education is very, very small. And this situation, as far as I know, is not only in China, but in many countries is like this. So I think we need some change in education. I think the most important change is that education needs to change from the transfer of knowledge to the cultivation of ability. There are many abilities that need to be cultivated. Generally speaking, I think the most important abilities are the following three aspects. The ability to solve problems in the known world, the ability to create new things in the unknown world, and the ability to learn and adapt in the rapidly changing world. So for these abilities, technology will play a very important role, because for the past few years change, I think the most important role is technology, computer, machines that contribute to the achievement that we have. I think with powerful technical tools, today's children can solve more complex problems, and their boundaries of creation will be broader. So imagine when I was a child, about 30 years ago, so the creation that I can do is play with the clay, to cut wood with a small knife, or other simple handwork. You may have a lot of crazy ideas, but at that time, the ideas are always ideas. It's very hard for you to realize the ideas. But what will happen if we replace the shovel with a giant digger? We give it to the children to see what they can do with this new tool. The modern technology is like the giant digger. The goal of MakeBlock is to try to give the digger to every child. We divide technology into three main areas: mechanics, electronics, and software. Of course, there are other technology fields such as biological, chemistry, extra, but these fields are not, right now, are not our focus. We focus in these three technology areas. So what do we do with the MakeBlock started about 6 years ago, and for these so many years, our goal is we follow two directions to do all our business. The first, we try to provide an integrated platform including mechanics, electronics, and software. We try to provide a platform to help kids to realize their ideas based on this platform. Because if a child or normal people, they have ideas, if they want to realize the ideas, most of the so they need to solve the problem in these three areas: mechanics, electronics, and software. Another direction is to lower the threshold of creation, to make mechanical building easier, to make electronic easier, to make programming easier, and to make the creation more easier for many kids. So here is our solution. this is what MakeBlock do in the very beginning. This is our first generation of a solution on this problem. So on mechanical side, we are using metal parts for the users to build some professional robots. And on the electronic side, we choose Arduino, but it's not a standard Arduino. We based on Arduino to make some modification to make the wiring much easier. And on the software side, we choose Scratch, because Scratch is a popular graphic programming language for kids. And we make some development to help Scratch users can use Scratch to programming Arduino. But that's not enough. So that's the first generation. And you know, Scratch is very friendly for entry-level users. Okay, the video is not that good. So, but for some experienced users, Scratch may not be enough. So we integrated Scratch with Python, and so that's the next step, Scratch and Python on software side. But we did not stop there. Electronics are always very complicated for kids. Even Arduino is hard for them. So we started to think, how can we make this much simple and in the same time, much powerful. So that's Neuron, our next solution. So Neuron is a kind of electronic bricks that the wiring is much easier. Actually, there's no wiring. We are using magnetic connector, and the children, they don't need to worry about they make the wrong wiring. And but electronic is only one side. We developed a programming tool for Neuron, which is much easier than Scratch. It works like this. We call it a flow-based programming. You just need to draw the line. So this tool is very friendly, even for users. They don't know how to use if-else, while this kind of programming language. So that's on the software side. But we still to think. We don't want to limit our users to use only metal materials to build. There are many other materials can build many types of things. So we started to to include other materials like cardboard and wood. It works like this. Okay, so that's the solution we have before. On mechanical side, on electronic side, and on software side, we try to provide a wider solution for users, not to limit their creation, and in the same time, we want to make the technology very easy to use. And we want to keep the flexibility of creation. But on mechanical side, how can we make it much more flexible? The answer is a tool. So recently we released our newest product. It's called LaserBox. It's kind of laser cut machines. Laser cut machines is not a new thing, but before laser cut machines are kind of industry machines. It seems very dangerous. It's very hard to use, and kids cannot use it. So we developed a very user-friendly laser cutter machines. We are using some new technology like AI, like computer vision, to help make the laser cutter machines can be used even by kids with 6 years old. I have a video of this, but I don't have the English
一直以
version.
来，我们都在思考
Sorry,
一
it's
口
a Chinese
生物
version.
教育和创造的激光切割机应该是什么样子？有没有可能直接画出想要的图案即可一键切割？
You can draw something and put it in the
我
machines,
们将计算机图像
and just put one
计
button,
算机视觉
and then you get what you want.
应用于激光切割，让它极具智能且高度安全，连孩子也能轻松操作。那将会是怎样的一幅场景？激光宝盒，智能让创造更简单。绘制图案。
You can easily draw something on the materials you want,
这就是所有的操作。
and put it in the machines.
激光宝盒
And that's
自动
it.
识别材料，无需手动对焦，无需设置参数，所画即所得。如果你有更复杂的创意需要实现 ，LaserBox 软件将是你的得力助手。 你可以用专业绘图工具设计图纸，或者在官方素材展选择你喜欢的作品。可视化的软件操作界面，让你可以直观调整图片的大小，并将其放在理想的位置。精美的纸雕灯，3D 雕刻的万年历，甚至是一台会循线的小车，所有的想法都能通过激光宝盒来实现。 结合智能图像提取功能，你几乎可以提取任意平面上的图案，用于新的创作。比如，给你的 iPhone 换个新外观。激光宝盒不仅智能，更注重使用上的安
It's
全。
very safe.
开盖
So
紧
when
闭
you
的安
open the
全防护
case,
措施，
it will
使
stop
激
work.
光成为孩子也可放心使用的创造工具。智能、安全，所画即所得。这就是激光宝盒，人人都能使用的桌面级智能激光切割机。
Yeah, so that's our solution on help the kids to create. So we provide a solution on mechanical, electronical, and the software side. But I think that this kind of technology is very important for kids to use. But in addition to the above explained abilities, we also need to cultivate other abilities of children, such as teamwork abilities, anti-pressure abilities, and ability to accept failure. Extra. So robot competition is a very good way to exercise this kind of abilities. So we start to hold our own robotic competition called MakeX. We started this competition in 2017, and in the first year we only have 200 teams. But in this year, 2018, we have 3,000 teams, and there are more than 1,000 teams is from outside China. So I think robotic competition is very important to exercise other abilities for the children.
Somebody save your soul, 'cause you've been sinning in the city. I know too many troubles, all these lovers got you losing control. You like a drug to me, a luxury, my sugar and gold. I want the good life every good night, you're a hot one to hold. 'Cause you don't even know.
Okay, so that's what MakeBlock do. We help kids to create, to solve problems. We think technology is a very important tool, and in the same time, we think that there are other kind of abilities like teamwork, like anti-pressure is also very important. So we hold a competition called MakeX, and yeah, so our goal, MakeBlock's goal, is to help more people to enjoy the process of creating things, not only for the kids, but I think for many people like us, we all have ideas. But before, most of the time, we just think this kind of ideas is very hard for us. So we always keep ideas in our mind. It's just ideas. But we hope in the future, with the help of the advanced technology, everyone can enjoy to realize their ideas. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jason, for your excellent presentation. The last speaker is Pasi Sahlberg. It's your turn. Okay.
I will have to. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
How are we going? You know, that's a big difference between Australia and North America, is that in down under people ask, how are we going? And in America, it's how are you doing? It's a big difference. So I'm asking you, how are we going? It's a wonderful panel, isn't it? It's I've been learning so much from both of you, and it's an honor to be part of this distinguished group of people and the audience. Thanks for coming here. You know, I came here to this panel with one question in mind. And this question is something like this: that how can it be that so many parents nowadays, increasing number of mothers and fathers, are looking for school for their children where the children would be able to learn and grow without technology? This is particularly true in the San Francisco Bay Area, in the Silicon Valley, where many of these companies are working. Many of the parents, rather than send their children in the schools where their products and technology is used, instead choose schools like Waldorf or Montessori, or schools that are focusing on arts and music and drama and play or physical activity. So my question is, why is that? What's going on? And one kind of a conclusion I have is that, would it be true that it's easier to think about education and particularly innovation in education when we think about other parents' children rather than our own? Okay? So raise your hand if you have your own children in school right now, not university, but in a school. Raise your hand if you have your own kids going to school right now. Am I the only one? Some of you. So I invite all of you to, think about these questions that we are discussing here in this forum from your own children's point of view. And I tell you up front that we have two little boys at home. They're in a preschool and elementary school age. And these questions that we often discuss here are very personal to me. So I'm not talking about what I think and expect for other parents' children. I'm answering these questions: what is the future education from my own children's point of view? What type of school would I like to have for my own kids? And it's a completely different world when you think about other people's children. So that's my starting point. And I have a little bit different argument here. I basically what I try to argue with you here is that 20 years ago, it was very common in a forum and conference like this to ask questions like, how do we prepare children for the world that is full of all these opportunities with the new technologies? And I think, when I think about my own children, that the question for me is now that how do we prepare children to live without this technology? that is surrounding them, and everybody has access now. It's a very different thing. It has nothing to do with whether you are in favor or against technology. That's not the point. That is what our education systems should do. So the statement we often hear is that, you know, the world has changed, everything has changed, so the school education and what we do in schools have to change as well. And technology has been one of those key drivers in this change. And as you heard from the former Prime Minister of Sweden this morning, if you went to the opening ceremony, he said, what I was supposed to say here, is that everybody likes change, except that they don't want to change themselves. In Finland, we say that, we have this saying that, I love change, but you go first. I love change, but you should go first. You try it first, because I don't know what's going to happen. And now, of course, we do know that technology can do anything, almost anything. We can write research papers and publish them in a peer-reviewed journals written by artificial intelligence. We can operate people, we can drive cars and airplanes, almost anything. So, of course, the question is that why not education? Why not what teachers normally do or professors do in a university? I have a question for you, because one of those interesting things that the artificial intelligence can do now is to create arts. You know, symphonies have been composed and pop songs have been made without any human touch. You see 3 images here. You probably recognize the artist. And my question is that which one of these was made by machine? So one of these paintings was painted by a machine, and my question to you is which one of them? Turn to your neighbor very quickly for half a minute, 30 seconds, and tell which one of these images you think was not made by a human, and why do you think so? Okay, just have a little chat with your neighbor. It's very hard, isn't it? Maybe it's equally hard to tell the difference between a robot teaching children in a school and a real teacher. Now, raise your hand here in the room if you think that it's the painting A was made by artificial intelligence. Raise your hand if you think it's A. Okay? Raise your hand if you're sure that it's a B. Some of you. How about C? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So those who voted for C, you were right. This is made by the artificial intelligence. It's very hard to tell the difference. And you know that this is Van Gogh's paintings, 2 of these. And if you want to know more about how the machine can learn to paint like a Vincent van Gogh, go and see it in Wikipedia. You can read it over there. So that's why, you know, the question the question that what should we do is a relevant one. Now let's go back about 20 years, 18 years backwards, and you know, then one of the concerns in a conference like this would be people were talking about the digital divide, the fact that there's a huge gap between those who have access to technology, particularly computers at home, and those who haven't. And 18 years ago, there was a huge divide between people who have and have not access to computer at home. Okay, so then of course, you know, there are organizations like the OECD who say that, you know, the main thing that we need to do is to close this divide, this gap between those who have and those who have not, by buying more computers and technology into schools. And this is what we have seen happening around the world in our schools during the last 20 years. Huge investments in hardware and software, often in the name of closing this divide, this gap between those who have access and those who have not. Now, you know, we do know also from research that things were not really playing out as many people were hoping 20 years ago. There were high hopes of technology being able to also close the achievement gap in schools because of the technology, but that hasn't happened. Actually, the OECD a couple of years ago concluded that, ironically, that more technology is used in schools, less children learn there. So there was a negative correlation between the use of technology in teaching and learning and what the kids are learning, particularly when it comes to mathematics and reading. So there are a lot of things that we don't kind of know how things are going on. Let's see what is the situation right now as we speak here regarding the digital divide. And again, my argument here is that we do have a digital divide, but it's a very different than it was 20 years ago. Now, look at some of these numbers. The number of teenagers who have access to smartphone, and this is from the wealthier part of the world. The statistics is from the OECD, or these numbers are directly from the United States. It's the same thing in Germany and Finland and probably here in South Korea and many other countries. Almost everybody, all the teenagers are carrying smartphone in their pockets. Then almost half of the teenagers around the world, but particularly in these countries that I mentioned, are online practically all the time. And all the time means at nights, and all the time means when they are in a classroom doing what the teachers are expecting them to do. And practically everybody, all the children under 8, have access to mobile device at home. Just look at this. So where is the divide now? Can we say that the divide has kind of disappeared? You know, one thing that has emerged, together with this 18, 20 years of progress since year 2000, is that we have a new problem. We have a new issue that may or may not be the result of this closing this digital gap. But let's take a look at this. You know, one thing that is really concerning many parents and many teachers around the world, and particularly many medical health people around the world, is that when we look at the well-being and health of our young people, it has been declining. And there are many people who don't quite understand why this is happening. You know, what is behind this decline, particularly when it started to decline faster than ever before around 2011 or 2012. And this is the same thing in the United States and Finland, my own country, Australia, where I live now, the numbers are the same. New Zealand, all across the Europe. I don't know what is here in South Korea. But it's very clear that there's something has been going on with the children's lives that is causing, or part of the cause of this declining well-being and health. This is really a critical situation. You know, one thing that has happened is the amount of time that young people, particularly teenagers, spend on watching screens and using time with the technology. Now, there's a new research paper, if you want to have evidence, and people often say, so where's the evidence that this is actually happening? Tweng and Campbell are publishing a paper that it will be out in a couple of months, actually next month in December, that is clearly showing that the more hours with the screens is linked to lower well-being in the ages of between 2 and 17 of kids. So now there's no question about it that the screen time is actually associated. Again, it can be a correlation, it can be a causal link, we do not know that exactly yet. They also claim that the heavy users, high users of screen time or technologies show less curiosity, self-control, and emotional stability. Maybe it's this notion, that makes people in the Silicon Valley to be concerned about, you know, what's happening with if the children are using too much technology in the school or at home. Maybe they know the best because they are closest to these things that they are creating themselves. Okay? So this is a study that we are now partnering at the University of New South Wales. This is the ongoing research taking place in the province of Alberta in Canada, led by the University of the Harvard University's medical school and the Boston Children's Hospital, where the research is looking at, from the teacher's perspective, how the classrooms, how the children have changed during the last 5 years. So the results that you see in this infograph indicate what the teachers in Alberta, how did they respond to these questions of what type of changes they have seen in their own classrooms. About 5,000 teachers answered this across the province. And you can see that anything between 85% and 90% of teachers in Alberta say that they have seen either psychological, social, or behavioral changes and problems more in their classrooms than before. It's a very alarming thing, and what we try to do through our research is to replicate the same study in Australia and see whether this is the situation there as well. So there's clearly something happening there, and we need to be aware of this. So this, I call this the new digital divide, or digital divide 2.0, looks very different than what it was 20 years ago. Remember, 20 years ago, it was a kind of a gap between those who have access to computers and technology and those who haven't, and we have been able to close that. But now we have a new issue. And if we look at the teenagers now, this is in the United States, you see that the lower income teenagers, so those who come from the poorer homes, they spend about 8.5 hours with the screens every day. Okay? The higher income children, the difference is significantly less. And again, the question is that why is this? Why do we have a difference between high income and low income children in terms of how much time they spend with the screens and technology? Now, this is another one. This is from the Pew Research Center data very recently, where we can confirm the same type of trend. The question here was in this survey that how often teenagers have been asked to do homework on their cell phone or smartphone. And you will see that those who answered often or sometimes, if you look at the lower income, it's a nearly half of them were using cell phone for their homework, whereas the high income kids was barely 30%. Okay? A big issue. So the gap is now probably between the social classes in our societies. So many people now conclude that what is happening now, rather than a kind of a systematic way of trying to improve teaching and learning in our schools using technology, but that we are witnessing a huge social experiment on children. Nobody knows how this is going to play out. Nobody knows what will be the impact in the end of all these experiments that we are doing in the name of looking for good and better education. So what should schools do? I think this is the question that we are talking about here. What should we look at in the schools? Now, it could be, as you see here, that in the future we're going to see the trend where the parents, like those in Silicon Valley right now are doing, and many other capitals and wealthy parts of the world, that they are sending their children to the schools where they can be exposed with a human interaction, with a real teacher. Whereas those who do not have this privilege will find their children in the schools where they will be eventually taught by robots or technology. Now, I leave this question for you to think about whether this is something that we should be concerned or not. But with this kind of a statement, I'm going to leave you with 5 things that I think I would like to see in the future school, again through my own children, not just looking at somebody else's kids. 5 things that I would really love to see. You may call them innovation. I actually call them a renaissance of education, bringing back some of those things that we used to have in the schools, but in a different way. The first thing is that I think every school, or every good school in the future, should focus on teaching self-control to children. The government of France, a couple of months ago, banned all smartphones in every school in France from the kids who are 15 years or younger. I don't know what you think about that, but I do think that this is, in a way, a kind of a problematic thing, because it takes away of the opportunity now to really teach the self-control to young people in a school rather than ban things. And from social research, we do know that one of the most effective ways to leave a lifelong track on people's lives and help them to thrive is to teach them self-control. Okay? So that's one thing that I would love to see my own children, when they are in a school, to learn with teachers and other people how they can learn to manage and control their own behaviors and thinking, particularly when it comes to using and understanding technology. Then the other one is read more books. This is simple like this. Some people say that it doesn't make really a difference whether you use Kindle or book. Then there are those researchers who say there's a big difference in terms of how you feel about it and how you learn and how you progress your reading. I really don't care how it is. It can be even audiobooks. But I think we need to particularly focus on teenager boys, bring them back to reading books. That's the #1 problem in Finland, and it's a huge problem in many other countries that young boys don't read anymore. They don't read anything, and that is a problem. We have an issue if young people do not read anymore. Then the third one is sleep more. Period. Sleep more. You know what's happening around the world is that teenagers and children are sleeping much less than they should. Any pediatrician should say that a teenager should sleep anything between 9 and 11 hours every night. In America, in Australia, and Finland, the average now is 7.5 hours. And it's an average. So it means that there are many who sleep much less, and there are some who sleep more. So if you are kind of in favor of homework, give your children homework, sleep 2 extra hours every night. That's the best homework right now that I can imagine. Then the fourth one is to write letters, and not with a computer or iPad or smartphone, longhand. Write a letter to your grandmother every week using pen and paper and tell what's happening in your life, what did you learn in the school. And this is not to replace the computer and what you can do. There are many things that you can do with Wikipedia and others that you can do typing with your computer, but we need to teach empathy as well. And the best way to teach empathy is to use your own hand and write a letter on paper and put it in an envelope and send it to your grandmother that you love, or grandfather, or anybody you like. That's what I would like my children to do in a school every week. And last thing here is play hard. So play as hard as you work and study hard. And this is something that many of those people that I started my story with are saying, that I want to have a school and place where my children can play, because when they play, they will learn all these critical things that they need in this world that is full of technology. And then there are those who say that when children play, they also learn these critical things that they need to be good in coding, to be good in designing games and technology. And that's why playing more is a critical thing. Play is disappearing in the lives of young children at home and in school and many parts of the world. We have to bring play back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your good presentation. Right now, the moderator's role is timekeeper and the facilitator and the real moderator. So I would like to, a timekeeper is so far very successfully done. We have 20 more minutes. So I would like to entertain the floor discussion. I already have here in my pad 4 questions. So I would like to give a question and then point out the speakers and answer the discussion. First question is, final speaker, you. And the final speaker mentioned how should we make our children learn to live without technology. Then how do you propose we should teach our children to live without technology in a rapidly tech-driven world? And what role does proper character and mindset education have to play? That's the question to you.
All these questions. Let me say, I would actually like to invite the panel, my colleagues here, to reflect on this thing as well. You know, my brief answer to this great question, thank you very much for asking this, is these 5 things what I said. I think it's much more important to offer children something to do instead rather than ban things. I don't believe that children are very good in accepting that we deny something or take the technology away. We have to remember that all of the children who are in our schools now, they were born in this world where technology was there. And we adults who were we are immigrants in this world where technology is, we often don't understand this. We don't understand how children feel about their gadgets and devices and other things. So I think the best way to teach children how to live in the world without technology is to teach self-control and offer children some alternative things to do. That's why I'm offering reading and sleeping and writing and all those other things as a kind of attractive alternatives rather than just simply banning things. But I don't know if you have anything to Frank or Jason, if you want to add something on this.
I think the technology is kind of good things. It improves our society. But in most situations, our people are served by technology. So we spend a lot of time on game, on short videos, a lot of things, a lot of time waste. And the children tend to spend more because they can't control themselves. This is, but technology is very strong. If they can use technology, they are not served by technology. They use technology to solve their problems, to create new things. I think that's another way to live together with technology. Right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, both of you. Another question, second question. Its innovative solutions are available on developed or developing countries. World is becoming more smaller because of technologies. But there are poor countries that can provide with education or using generation of country. Is there any innovative solution for that kind of countries? Anyone answer that question? Three of you. Is there any volunteer answer this question? There are question about information gap between the poor country and the wealthy country.
No, I think when you are thinking about this further, I think that technology is definitely a huge opportunity in developing countries. But again, I think we should not think it as a kind of a simple one solution to replace other things, like we have seen now in Africa and some other places, efforts to try to replace a quality teacher by unqualified people who are working and kind of using technology that they don't probably themselves understand what it is. So we can use technology as a one solution in developing countries, but it should never replace the high quality school or high quality teacher.
Okay, thank you.
I think there's also, there have been projects in the past where more developed countries thought that by just dropping technology into other countries, things would change, and that would be a solution. I'm thinking about a case that I discussed with one of our instructors in our program from Columbia University, and she presented 2 weeks ago at a conference, and she talked about the project One Laptop Per Child, and she talked about the fact that in Peru, those little devices had been unused for many, many years because the one thing that people didn't understand, those people who distributed the devices, is that technology does not work on its own. You have to not only provide the technologies or the devices, you also have to talk about and see how those devices could be used if you need to use them. And so I think that you see so many examples of okay, there is like a class where Apple provides iPads, and that's then the big solution is that children just use iPads, and I don't think that is a solution. If you have specific use cases that make sense, then okay, it's good to have an iPad, but otherwise I'm very,
as a Wikipedian, I'm very sympathetic to what you just said, because we love books. That's where we get the information that we put into Wikipedia. And I'm personally, I'm a big book lover, and what you just said resonates a lot with me.
Okay, thank you. This time is a question to Wang, Jasen Wang. Okay, it's a Korean version here. I'll read it and then I'll translate it later. So you can,
Okay.
중학교 3학년 학생입니다. 제이슨 왕께 질문 드립니다. 아이들에게 코딩 교육을 하는 것은 기술적인 부분이 가장 중요하다고 하셨는데요. 아이들에게 코딩을 가르치는 과정에서 코딩을 단순화한다는 것은 그들에게 접근하기에 굉장히 효과적인 방법이라고 생각합니다. 그러나 코딩을 너무 단순화하여 교육을 하게 되면 아이들은 결국 코딩에 대한 개념과 원리를 이해하기 힘들 수도 있다고 생각합니다. 또한 이런 과정이라면 이것은 코딩 교육이라기보다는 미술 교육에 가까워질 수도 있다고 생각하여 excuse me. So, 메이크블록 근본적인 목적이 무엇인지 궁금해졌습니다. Middle school children's question.
Okay. Actually, I think the purpose is not to teach coding. We don't need so much software engineers in the future, because coding is a kind of a tool that to help to create. If some days we have a much stronger tools that can help us to realize our ideas without coding, I think that's what we want. But right now, yes, we need to teach kids to write the basic code. You know, so most of the coding tools is in the computer. So most of the teaching process is like write a code, write some programming, and control something in the screen. You know, the kids nowadays, they are grown up with iPad, so everything in the screen is not attractive to them. So I think we need to make this process very interesting for them. Control something in the computer, in the screen is not that attractive, but control something in the real world, control a robot to do something, I think is much more attractive for this kind of keys. So in my opinion, we should use other things to make the process of teaching code very interesting. We can think about like use to include hardware, to include teamwork and other things to make this process much easier, much attractive. I think that this is not very hard for kids. For kids, they are very smart. They have a lot of potential. The only thing we need to do is to attract them to attract them, to encourage them to spend more time on this. Yeah. So I think the hardware may be much more interesting during the process.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Okay, this time is question to Frank. Okay, it's the Korean version. 위키 학습을 이용하는 것은 좋은 시도라고 봅니다. It's good for the Wikipedia assisted learning. And 자신의 학습이 다양한 사람들에게 전달이 된다는 것은 매우 보람 있는 일입니다. 다만 잘못된 지식과 정보가 특정한 목적으로 전달되는 창구로 활용이 될 수 있는 가능성에 대해서는 어떻게 생각하시는지요? 만약 그런 일이 발생한다면 이 프로젝트가 추구하고자 하는 목적을 반하는 일이 아닐까요? 그 부분을 제외하면 위키 에듀케이션이 추구하는 방향에 대해서는 많이 공감합니다. You understand? Let me translate it.
Good. Oh. So, if I understand the question correctly, you were asking about like what if people use this concept of teaching with Wikipedia for the inserting incorrect information into Wikipedia. I have to say I've never thought about it that way. I think that there are a number of controls in place. In the end, the students who participate in an assignment like that, they want to get a grade, so there is a teacher who grades that article that they created, and so I'm not sure whether this is really a scenario that I could imagine. Actually, when you look at it from a student's perspective, what we've seen is that students put much more time into those assignments than they would put in a different assignment. And the reason for that is clear. Most of the students are terribly afraid to do exactly what you're asking, to insert information that is potentially wrong and that could give other people a wrong direction for whatever they're looking for. It's still, from a personal perspective, to say that as well, I'm still frightened of that as well. Like, I don't know how many books I've read for my last article, and how many hours I spent. Sometimes I work like for several months on a little piece of information that I put into Wikipedia, because I feel a huge sense of responsibility. I know that some of my articles on the German Wikipedia get more readers than most of the experts in that field get readers. And that makes me really afraid, and I'm really trying very hard to give people in Germany and other German-speaking countries the information that they need, and as accurate as possible.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Okay, two more questions, but I will combine these two. One is a question in English, one is a question in Korean. So just wondering, should we make social media companies to pay taxes for learning people's mind and increasing unhappiness? That's the question. That's in the okay. High-tech area is the pro and the cons every and the bright side and the shadow side. So we have to understand that. So our answer is. Do we edit some more?
You know, this is outside of my field of expertise. The taxing policy, that I don't. But you know, if the thinking behind this question is that we can somehow mediate or solve the problem caused by social media and others, I don't think it's not going to be anywhere enough to do that. Okay. I think we need to be much more cautious and aware of the magnitude of the impact that the social media and smartphones particularly have had on people.
Okay, thank you. Last question is 세 분 발표 내용 잘 듣고 감사합니다. Thank you for three speakers for your excellent presentation. And is there any ideas, any suggestions how you can utilize these effectively at the school setting?
Can you repeat the question? How can we? Okay.
One is thank you for your excellent presentation for three speakers. And is there any ideas and any suggestions to using this technology effectively in the school?
Yeah, well, let me start first, because it would be foolish to travel all the way from Sydney, Australia here without any ideas what to do, practical things. So certainly, you know, and I think it's a great question really to end the panel. And you know, what is like I would transform this question into something like, so what would be one thing that we could do in our schools to make sure that we will end up having a good or better future with or without these things that we have in mind. You know, one thing I have in mind, I'm not saying that this is the only one or even in the kind of the most important thing, but one thing we need to be clear in our schools. Anybody here who is a teacher, if you work with the children, or if you parent, let's make sure that we help our young people, all of them, to understand that there's no such skill as multitasking. There is no such thing that the human being would be able to do several things simultaneously without turning the other thing or other things into autopilot. That's how our brain works. And this is, I've met a lot of students at my university and in schools who believe this. They think that, you know, if I practice enough, I can learn how to multitask. I can learn how to do several things at the same time. But we have to teach everybody that this is beyond the capacity of our brain. Nobody can do that. And if we learn this, then of course it means that at home, if somebody's doing homework, you cannot watch film and listen to music and chat with somebody and then read a book. It just doesn't happen. And it's the same thing in the school, that human beings can only do one thing at a time. And therefore the technology can be a very disturbing thing here if we believe that the kids can, you know, use technology and read or listen or watch something there while they're trying to do something else. I think this is one of those things that might have a potential to change really many things that we do in our schools and universities if we were able to help people to understand that you cannot do several things simultaneously, just one thing at a time. So that's my concrete
your conclusion. Thank you very much. We have 1 minute and 10 seconds. So I would like to wrap up this session. So I would like to finalize some comment. I think they are all talking about educational technology and how you can utilize it effectively for the learning in the school setting or individual basis. But there is a critical issues, 3 issues. In my maybe 5 issues, I just raised the issues. We don't have any enough time to debate that. Privatization of education. That's really one big issue, seems to me. Second thing is datafication of individual learners. They are private issues. And third one, what's the goal or function of learning? So there's a utilize high educational technology for effectively learn something. But what's the real goal and the function of learning? For what? That's the basic questions. They're supposed to have answered that too. They have one question there. So educational industrialization. There's two big debates, big war between formal schooling and the private sectors. So these two are how we can effectively combine those issues are really big issues. We didn't cover that one. So educational technology is a long journey. It's just a starting point. I think the rapid change will be. My personal term is university will disappear. School disappeared pretty soon because curriculum or paradigm shift will happen pretty soon, in my personal opinion. So university and the schools will be a platform learning hub, that's all. And the learners will be, my term is self-learner tailored learning schemes will be. No curriculum, no time limit, no campus will be. Then those high educational technology will be really helpful for individual learners. But there's the basic questions. Then for what? What's the real goal and function and the purpose of education in terms of individual development, moral development, citizenship, etc.? That's my big questions. One more thing. I have a lot of things here to talk, but I'm a moderator, so I think it's fourth industrial revolution age. There is, in my personal, 3 free educational paradigm shift will happen. First one, time free, location free, curriculum free. In other words, content-free. Third one, 3 less. Campus less, book less, professor, teacher less. Thank you very much. Give a big hand to 3 predominant good speakers. Big hand again.